think Big Meech, like, told on somebody to get out, snitched, did anything extra?
No. Let me tell you why. Big Meech paperwork is public records. There is no proof that Big Meech said, hey, bust him, bust him, bust him. Big Meech, bro, I ain't gonna lie. That man got to that compound, and man, he had some of the guys I would never think that would get B.M.F, ENT on the left side of their neck, man.
In here with a 27-year sentence based on Demetrius Flannery, as you all know as Big Meech, and Tammy Cowens, known in the paperwork as CS1.
Right.
Confidential source 1. So what Big Meech did was call a third-party cooperation.
Terrence "Gangster" Williams, who served a significant amount of time alongside Big Meech, is stepping forward to set the record straight. He's shutting down the wild claims made by 50 Cent, which suggests that Meech was a snitch. But that's not all. Gangster reveals that Meech essentially ran the entire prison, holding power like a kingpin.
You know, it's selective politics and it's selective who they gonna call a rat and who they not gonna call a rat in this industry. So we've been saying that since I've been.
According to Gangster, every inmate showed Meech the utmost respect. This revelation has caught everyone's attention, causing people to question 50 Cent's narrative. Now, the big question is whether Meech really worked with the feds, or if 50 Cent's bitterness stems from Meech's alliance with Rick Ross, leaving him behind. Let's break down what Gangster really exposed about Meech's time in prison. An old interview with the New Orleans street legend Terrence "Gangster" Williams just resurfaced. In it, he explained how Big Meech was calling the shots in prison like a true boss.
Big Meech, bro, I ain't gonna lie. That man got to that compound, and man, he had some of the guys I would never think that would get B.M.F, ENT on the left side of their neck, man. It was tattooed, and he made it clear. He said, listen, I'm not giving nobody no connect. I'm not hooking nobody up with nothing. I'm not doing nothing when y'all go home. So, in other words, you know, people try to get with him just for, you know, the games. You know, for me, let it be known, look, I ain't got nothing, nobody. I'm in jail doing my bid. That's what it is. You know what I'm saying? So,
Gangster described how inmates flocked to Meech, following him as if he were royalty. He wasn't forcing anyone, nor was he flexing. It was all about his natural influence and respect. Wherever Meech walked, everyone was watching.
Man, bro, I literally remember 25 guys after lunch will go to that rec yard with Big Meech. They're gonna take over the weight pile, they're gonna work out, they're gonna hit the weights, do their little workout, and then after that, Big Meech whoever got the wine, he gonna bottle the wine up, whoever cooking food, he gonna bottle the food up, and he gonna sit in the cell or hang out and just talk war stories, just talk about on the streets, man. He was a very good, humble dude. Very humble.
It gets even more interesting. Gangster revealed that Meech had a genuine opportunity to escape and return to his millionaire lifestyle before the feds took control of the situation. However, Meech made the choice to stay solid doing his time, like a true stand-up individual. We'll dive deeper into that escape story in just a moment. It's wild. But first, let's address the snitching rumors.
Everybody shining like new money. There ain't no other fool like this in the world, and there never will be another. Not black, it never will be, because it said that if like this is shining all together, being together, doing shit every day, then they gonna fall out over some money or somebody gonna rob, steal, and kill. I have yet to see that. All of us get along.
We all know that 50 Cent has been accusing Meech of turning federal informant, largely based on statements from Meech's former associate, Tammy Cowens. But when Gangster was questioned about these accusations, he didn't buy it. He firmly stated that he doubts Meech ever folded. Gangsters didn't stop there. He took a swipe at some of the people in the industry, calling out figures like 50 Cent for being hypocritical when it comes to labeling others as snitches. He made it clear that many in the industry pick and choose who they want to accuse, and that is all fake when the truth eventually surfaces. To understand where these snitching rumors even began, we need to take a step back and look at the rise and fall of B.M.F. This was what ultimately led to Meech receiving his harsh 30-year sentence.
I couldn't do it. If I was for self, I could have did that. I could have grabbed a bunch of millions and been on somewhere where you can't be extradited. But that wasn't what I was out for. I've already played the legal game to the fullest. So now I was trying to legitimize me and the whole family. I mean, I was 37 years old when I got picked up, so I was slowing down anyway, because I was getting kind of tired. But when you the face of the family, That's the one thing that I was trying to learn. Even at 37 years old, even though I'm feeling old, I've been doing it so long, like I was getting kind of tired. You know me, I'm popping pills, smoking weed, drinking, and partying, freaking, getting money, got whips going up and down the road. I'm doing everything to try to make this family successful, and everything we do look big.
Here's the crazy part. Meech had a chance to skip town and avoid the feds altogether. He could have fled overseas and lived comfortably, but instead, he chose to stay and face his time. This decision earned him immense respect in the streets. But it also set the stage for all the drama we're seeing now, including 50 Cent snitching accusations. To really understand the full picture, we need to go even further back and examine the birth of the Black Mafia Family, B.M.F. The B.M.F. was founded in 1985 in Southwest Detroit by the Flannery brothers, Demetrius Big Meech Flannery and Terry Southwest T. Lee. These men weren't just dreaming big, they had the right connections to the top, with direct links to the largest Mexican cocaine suppliers. And they didn't waste any time moving fast.
Meech chartered a commercial flight for hundreds of people, and Meech paid for everybody. It was a full-on party in the sky.
I've seen the movie Soul Plane. It was like Soul Plane.
Yeah.
Meech had everything set up. Everything was set up for us to party.
By the early 2000s, B.M.F. had become a dominant force, their family-owned car service giving off an image of success on the surface. They had control over the streets and the club scene, presenting a flashy, untouchable lifestyle while building an entertainment empire that served as a cover for their large-scale drug operations. At their peak, they had 500 members making significant moves from coast to coast.
The place we stay at, LA, Atlanta, Detroit, we have homes, our own homes. We don't have to go in and rent. We got our own houses, we got our own cars, we got our own hoes, we got our own clothes. You know what I'm saying? And we can't be stopped. I don't see nobody stop. I don't see none to come after us either. None. Nobody will never do this again. There's this many niggas and this much money.
However, Meech and T didn't inherit their throne effortlessly. They fought intense turf wars, defeated rivals, and paid a heavy price in the streets. Back in the late 80s, T was shot in the right eye, leaving him partially blind for life. Meech wasn't a stranger to violence either. He was shot twice, once in the neck outside a Chinese restaurant in the 80s, and again in 2004 outside an Atlanta club where he was hit in the backside. The second shooting came after a dispute with Anthony Wolf Jones, Diddy's former bodyguard. Meech survived with minor injuries, but Wolf and another man didn't make it. Despite the dangerous street politics, B.M.F. lived a life of extreme luxury.
Leaning on the counter laughing because we're drunk as hell. He's like, man, Yogi, my ass is burning. I'm like, what? He's like, man, I think I got shot in the ass. And sure enough,
B.M.F. flaunted their wealth with 13 multi-million-dollar homes across the country, a fleet of foreign cars, and closets overflowing with designer clothing. Meech had an exclusive partnership with Jacob the Jeweler, sporting custom pieces that dazzled everyone around him. Meech always emphasized that B.M.F. was built on brotherhood, loyalty, and family. However, as they reached the top, cracks began to appear in those family bonds. Tensions between Meech and Southwest T grew, with even minor arguments escalating into public confrontations. It wasn't just talk, these were full-blown battles. Meech eventually accused T of stealing from B.M.F., signaling just how serious things had gotten. By the time B.M.F. hit its peak, the rift between the brothers had grown too wide to repair. Meech and T went their separate ways, with T relocating to LA to maintain the Mexican drug connections, while Meech remained in Atlanta, dominating the streets and club scene. But once the brothers split, chaos took over. The B.M.F. crew began to pick sides, and this division accelerated the downfall of the organization.
U.S. Marshals say this man, one of Atlanta Police Department's top 10 most wanted, and a member of an organized crime family, is now behind bars. U.S. Marshals tell me they arrested 37-year-old Ernest Dennis and 40-year-old Jonathan Manigo here outside of Buckhead Hotel. Both men, they say, are members of the so-called Black Mafia Family, or B.M.F.
Anyone tied to B.M.F. Typically has an extensive criminal history, so we consider them to be very violent.
Investigators say the organization B.M.F. is heavily involved in drug trafficking and has been in Atlanta at least since 2004. At that time, federal agents seized this limo with secret compartments that had almost $1 million hidden
By
inside.
2000, Meech had set his sights on the music industry, which led to the creation of B.M.F. Entertainment. With his flashy lifestyle and undeniable star power, Meech fit right into the hip-hop world, where money, fame, and excess were constant. B.M.F. was no longer just a street empire, it had become a dominant force in rap. Everyone who was anyone wanted to be close to Meech. Diddy, Jay-Z, and even 50 Cent were part of Meech's inner circle, partying and showing their admiration. For his lavish lifestyle, Meech's bold displays are still talked about today. From arriving at the club with 100 people, shutting down entire VIP sections, to parking to Maybach's next to Jay-Z's car just to make a statement, Meech was living a life few could match. One of the wildest stories about B.M.F. is Meech's extravagant jungle-themed birthday party at Magic City, where he brought in 2 white tigers and displayed them in the middle of the club. This was a level of flexing no one had ever seen before. Although the split between Meech and Southwest T helped B.M.F. grow, it also deepened the cracks within the organization. T wasn't pleased with Meech's over-the-top lifestyle and began venting to family and close friends. What T didn't realize, however, was that the feds were listening to every word. Every complaint was being recorded. By the early 2000s, Meech was living a lavish lifestyle, hosting extravagant parties where he would spend millions in a single night. However, what he didn't expect was that not everyone at these events was a fan or industry insider. Some were undercover law enforcement, quietly observing his every move, waiting for the right moment to take him down. After a 15-year investigation involving federal agents, local task forces, and even the IRS, they finally had enough evidence. With 900 pages of wiretaps, snitch testimonies, bank records, and surveillance footage, the authorities had an airtight case against him. In 2005, they moved in. Both Big Meech and Southwest T were arrested on serious drug and racketeering charges during a large sting operation. T was captured in Stedy, Louis, while Meech was arrested in Frisco, Texas. Along with them, 150 B.M.F. affiliates were arrested, effectively dismantling one of the biggest street empires in hip-hop history. Even before the raids, B.M.F. had a sense that the end was near. When the feds first arrested Southwest T, Meech had a chance to escape. He could have crossed into Mexico and evaded the authorities, but instead, Meech chose to confront the situation. He initially laid low in Miami, but eventually moved to Frisco, where the feds caught up with him. When the authorities raided, they didn't just arrest the Flannery brothers, they went after the whole family. Their father, sister, and even their girlfriends were dragged into the mess because their names were tied to properties and businesses used to launder B.M.F.'s money. No one was safe once the heat turned up. The D offered Meech and T a deal, take full responsibility, and their families would be spared. Staying loyal, they accepted. Both were charged under the Continuing Criminal Enterprise statute and sentenced to 30 years in prison. T got an early release in 2020 to serve his time under house arrest, but Meech's request for compassionate release was denied. After nearly 2 decades, Meech was released in October 2024, though still under strict conditions. Despite their time behind bars, B.M.F.'s legacy endured. Their names lived on in music, fashion, and interviews. In 2010, B.M.F., the rise and fall of Big Meech and the Black Mafia Family reignited interest, followed by Rick Ross's hit single B.M.F. blowing money fast. By 2020, 50 Cent and Starz turned their story into a successful TV series with Little Meech playing his father. The show was a hit, and by 2022, Starz released an 8-hour documentary on B.M.F. After Meech's release, a photo with Rick Ross went viral, causing a fallout with 50 Cent. 50 accused Meech of snitching and threatened to shut down the B.M.F. series. Meech has remained mostly silent but denied cooperating with the feds. Despite this, 50 claims he has proof, though many are skeptical since the documents don't directly label Meech as an informant. Even if Tammy Cowan cooperated with authorities to reduce Meech's sentence, it doesn't mean Meech was involved. Gangster Williams, who was close to Meech, insists Meech never folded. So, what do you think? Why is 50's son pushing this narrative so hard? And if those documents have been out for years, why was 55 making a TV show about Meech but now suddenly turning against him? Is 50 just playing petty, or does he have a point? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're into these real stories. See you in the next one.